Amina Carter held a skewer to a bleeding Mafia boss's throat in the back alley of Itaewon and demanded payment for the inventory his gunfight just destroyed. Because if she was going down in Seoul's underworld, she'd damn well do it on her own terms. The man before her was Kang Junseok, tattooed tyrant, billion-dollar kingpin, the cold Mafia heir who'd rejected every high society bride his clan ever offered. One assassination attempt, one fake engagement, one empire full of enemies, one anonymous traitor already plotting her death. What happens when the street vendor and the syndicate boss start falling for real, and the people who want him dead decide she's the perfect target? Buckle up. This arrangement is about to ignite. If you're just tuning in to Mafia Moonlight Tales, please like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell for more gripping stories. Your support keeps these tales alive. Now let's dive in. Amina Carter stood behind her battered food cart in a grimy corner of Itaewon, surrounded by smoke from sizzling skewers and the neon glow that painted Seoul's night in shades of desperation. The rent for her corner spot had doubled last month. The electricity from the borrowed outlet flickered every time she cranked up the heat. Her phone buzzed again, another message from the hospital about her brother's overdue bill. She let it go unanswered. 26 years old, and everything she'd scraped together was hanging by a thread. She smelled the blood before she saw him. Kang Junseok stumbled into her stall like a wounded panther, one hand pressed against his shoulder, where crimson seeped through a designer suit that probably cost more than her entire year's earnings. His face was all sharp angles and dangerous beauty, ink crawling up his neck, eyes black as the Han River at midnight, hair slicked back except for the strands now plastered to his forehead with sweat. Behind him, 3 men in dark suits rounded the corner, guns already rising. Amina didn't scream. She grabbed the nearest thing, a 10-inch carving knife still hot from cutting meat, and pressed it against his throat as she yanked him behind the cart. "Move and I'll finish what they started," she hissed. The gunmen stopped, confused. One barked something in Korean. Junseok's lips curved into something between a smirk and a grimace. "She's with me," he said in English, his voice rough as gravel, then in Korean, sharp and commanding. The men hesitated, then melted back into the shadows. Silence crashed down between them, broken only by the hiss of her grill and distant traffic. Amina didn't lower the knife. Blood dripped onto her cart, staining the metal she'd spent an hour scrubbing that afternoon. "You just ruined 3 hours of inventory," she said, "and you broke my good stool." Junseok stared at her like she'd sprouted a second head. No fear in her eyes, no recognition of who he was, just fury at the audacity of a man bleeding all over her livelihood. He started laughing, a low, pained sound that shook his shoulders. "How much?" he asked. 200,000 won, cash now." His hand moved to his jacket. She pressed the blade harder. He froze, then slowly pulled out a wallet thick enough to choke on. He tossed it to the ground between them. "Take it all," he said. "Consider it a down payment." "For what?" "For saving my life, whether you meant to or not." Amina looked at the wallet, then at him, then at the blood pooling near her feet. She should call the police. She should run. She should do anything except what she did next. She grabbed a clean towel and pressed it against his shoulder. "Sit, before you pass out and I have to explain a corpse to my landlord." He sat, grimacing as she applied pressure. Up close she could see the scars under his tattoos, old wounds, recent wounds, a map of violence written across skin that smelled like expensive cologne and gunpowder. "You always this bossy with strangers?" he asked. "You always bleed on people's carts?" Another laugh, softer this time. "What's your name?" "Why?" "Because I need to know what to call the only woman in Seoul stupid enough, or brave enough, to threaten me with a kitchen knife." Amina Carter. Americans. Born in Atlanta, living in hell. She tied off the makeshift bandage. "That needs real stitches and probably antibiotics, and definitely better life choices." Junseok stood, testing his shoulder. When he looked at her again, something had shifted in his eyes, curiosity, interest, something that made her skin prickle with warning. "I'm Kang Junseok." She shrugged. "Am I supposed to know you?" "Most people do." "I'm not most people. I'm a broke street vendor with a sick brother and no patience for men in blood-soaked Armani." She kicked his wallet back to him. "Take your money and your trouble somewhere else." He picked up the wallet but didn't leave. Instead, he pulled out a black card and set it on her cart. "I'll be back tomorrow night, same time, keep that." "I don't want your—" "It's not charity, it's insurance." His voice dropped, deadly serious. "Those men saw your face, they saw you help me, that makes you a loose end." Ice flooded her veins. "What?" "You're in danger now, Amina Carter, whether you like it or not." He turned to leave, then paused. "Tomorrow night we'll discuss your options." He disappeared into the neon-soaked darkness, leaving her standing in a pool of his blood, with a black card that felt heavy as a death sentence. Amina stared at the card, then at her phone buzzing with another hospital notification, then at the empty street, where a man who rejected arranged brides and ruled an empire had just walked away from the only woman who'd ever held a knife to his throat and demanded payment. She didn't know it yet, but her life had just been bought, sold, and set on fire. The game was already in motion, and Kang Junseok never made the same offer twice. Amina didn't sleep that night. She stood at the window of her shoebox apartment, watching dawn break over Itaewon's rooftops, the black card burning a hole in her pocket. She'd Googled Kang Junseok at 3 a.m. The search results made her stomach drop. Heir to the Kang Syndicate, rumored connections to half the politicians in Seoul, a man who'd made 3 rival gangs disappear in a single month, and she'd threatened him with a kitchen knife. The knock came at 6 a.m., 3 sharp raps that sounded like a judge's gavel. She opened the door to find 2 men in black suits, earpieces gleaming. The taller one bowed slightly. "Miss Carter, Mr. Kang requests your presence." "And if I refuse?" The man's expression didn't change. He insisted we stress that this is an invitation, not a summons. However, he glanced past her at the overdue rent notice still taped to her wall. "He believes you'll want to hear what he has to say." 20 minutes later, she sat in the back of a Mercedes that cost more than her entire bloodline, watching Seoul's morning traffic blur past tinted windows. They drove to Gangnam, where buildings stretched toward heaven and money spoke every language except humility. The penthouse occupied the entire 40th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city like a king surveying his kingdom. Amina stepped inside, her sneakers squeaking on marble that reflected her face back at her, tired eyes, natural hair pulled into a hasty bun, the same jeans she'd worn for 3 days straight. Junseok stood by the window, shoulder freshly bandaged under a crisp white shirt. In daylight he was even more dangerous, beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful, lethal and precise. "You came," he said without turning. "Your men were persuasive." "They're trained to be." He faced her and she saw he held a folder. "Your brother, Jamal Carter, age 19, sickle cell crisis, needs a bone marrow transplant. Current hospital debt, 47 million won and climbing." Rage shot through her veins. "You investigated me." "I investigate everyone who saves my life." He set the folder on the glass table between them. "I also know you send every spare one to Atlanta, that you work 16-hour days, that you've been denied 3 loans in the past 6 months. Get to the point." "I need a fiancé." Amina laughed, sharp and brittle. "You've got to be kidding." "My family's pressuring me to marry, strengthen alliances, produce heirs, the usual dynasty nonsense." His voice was clinical, detached. "I've refused every woman they've offered, but now there's a complication. Rival families see my refusal as weakness. They're circling. So pick some socialite and put a ring on it." "I don't want someone I can control. I want someone they'll never see coming." His eyes locked onto hers. "I want the woman who held a skewer to my throat and demanded payment." "You're insane." "I'm practical." He opened the folder. Inside was a contract and a cashier's check. 1 year public appearances. "Convince my enemies you're my weakness. In exchange, your brother gets his transplant, your debt disappears. You get a stipend of 10 million won monthly." The number made her dizzy. "And after the year?" "We part ways, clean divorce, you walk away set for life." Amina stared at the check, at her brother's medical files, at the man offering her salvation wrapped in a trap. "What's the catch?" Junseok's smile was cold as winter. "You'll be a target. Anyone who wants to hurt me will come for you first. You'll live in my world, play by my rules, and if you betray me—" He let the threat hang. She thought of Jamal's last voicemail, the pain in his voice, the hospital's final notice. 48 hours, she said. "I need time to think." You have until tonight. My enemies don't wait and neither do I. Amina signed the contract at midnight, her hand shaking as she wrote her name next to Jun Seok's sharp, aggressive signature. By dawn, movers were boxing up her life, 3 suitcases, a duffel bag, and the skewer she'd held to his throat, which she kept for reasons she refused to examine. The Kang estate sat in Pyeongchang-dong, where old money built fortresses and called them homes. Black iron gates opened to reveal a compound that looked like it had been carved from shadows and steel, traditional Korean architecture reimagined in modern brutalism. Stone lions guarded the entrance. Security cameras tracked her every step. Inside, silence pressed down like a physical weight. The foyer alone could swallow her entire apartment. Dark wood, minimalist furniture, art that probably cost more than her education, everything cold, everything perfect, everything designed to remind her she didn't belong. A woman descended the central staircase like a queen approaching her executioner. Kang Mal-soon, Jun Seok's grandmother, matriarch of the syndicate, 70 years old and sharp enough to cut glass. She wore a silk hanbok in deep burgundy, her silver hair pulled into an immaculate bun, her eyes scanning Amina with the precision of a jeweler appraising a fake diamond. "So," she said in English smooth as aged whiskey, "you're the street vendor." Amina straightened her spine. "Amina Carter, pleased to meet you." "I doubt that." Mal-soon's smile was thin as a knife edge. She gestured to a sitting room where tea had been laid out on a lacquered table. "Sit, we have much to discuss." Amina sat. She didn't touch the tea. Mal soon settled across from her, pouring with movements practiced over decades. "My grandson tells me you saved his life." "I bandaged a wound, that's all." "You held a blade to the heir of the Kang family and demanded payment." Mal-soon's laugh was dry as autumn leaves. "Bold, stupid, or perhaps both." She sipped her tea. "Tell me, Miss Carter, what do you know of our family?" "Enough to know I should have run. Yet here you are in my home, wearing my grandson's ring." Mal-soon's gaze dropped to the engagement band Jun Seok had slipped on Amina's finger that morning, platinum and diamonds that felt like shackles. "Do you love him?" "It's a business arrangement." "Honest, I appreciate that." Mal soon set down her cup with a delicate click. "Which is why I'll be honest with you. You are a stain on our lineage, a complication, a publicity nightmare wrapped in pretty brown skin." The words hit like slaps, but Amina kept her face neutral. "My grandson has made his choice and I will not publicly oppose him, but privately," Mal soon pulled an envelope from her sleeve, "I'm offering you an exit." She slid it across the table. Amina didn't touch it. "Inside is a check for 100 million won, enough to save your brother, enough to start over anywhere in the world." Mal-soon's eyes glittered. "All you have to do is disappear. Tonight, tell Jun Seok you realized you're not strong enough for this life. Break the contract, take the money and go." Amina stared at the envelope, at the elegant handwriting spelling out her escape. "Why?" "Because war is coming, Miss Carter. My grandson has enemies who will use you to destroy him. They will torture you, break you, kill you, and when they're done they'll send him pieces." Mal soon leaned forward. "I am offering you mercy, a chance to survive what's coming." "And if I refuse?" "Then you're a fool." Mal soon stood, smoothing her hanbok. "You have until morning. After that the offer expires and you belong to this family, body and soul." She glided from the room, leaving Amina alone with the tea growing cold and a check that promised salvation or cowardice. Amina picked up the envelope, felt its weight. Then she tore it in half. The kitchen staff looked at Amina like she'd announced plans to burn down the estate. "Miss Carter, we have 3 Michelin-trained chefs," the head housekeeper said, her English crisp with disapproval. "There's no need for you to." "I'm cooking dinner." Amina tied an apron around her waist, the only piece of home she'd brought besides her skewers. "For Jun Seok and myself, tell your chefs to take the night off." The housekeeper's jaw tightened, but she bowed and retreated. Amina suspected she'd run straight to grandmother Mal-soon. She didn't care. The Kang kitchen was a temple of stainless steel and marble, equipped with appliances that probably cost more than a car. Amina ignored all of it, searching until she found what she needed: cast iron, basic spices, real butter. She'd had ingredients delivered that afternoon. Chicken, collard greens, cornmeal, sweet potatoes, ingredients these walls had probably never seen. She cooked the way her grandmother taught her, with hands that remembered home even when the heart forgot. fried chicken crackling in hot oil, greens simmering with smoked turkey and vinegar, cornbread rising golden in the oven, mac and cheese that could make grown men weep, candied yams that tasted like Sunday dinners and second chances. The scents filled the cavernous kitchen, warm and defiant against the estate's cold perfection. Junseok found her 2 hours later, drawn by smells that didn't belong in his world. He stood in the doorway, still wearing his suit from whatever blood-stained business had occupied his day, watching her plate food onto simple white dishes. "What is this?" he asked. "Dinner, sit. I have a meeting. Sit, Junseok." Something in her voice made him obey. He lowered himself into a chair at the kitchen island, looking out of place in his own home. Amina set the plate in front of him. His eyes widened slightly. "Seoul food," she said. "From Atlanta, my grandmother's recipes." She sat across from him with her own plate. "You wanted me here, this is who I am, no pretense, no performance, just me." He picked up his fork hesitant, took a bite of the chicken, then the greens, then the cornbread. His expression shifted, surprise melting into something softer, something almost vulnerable. He paused, searching for words in a language that suddenly felt inadequate. "It tastes like home," Amina finished quietly, "even when you're not sure where that is anymore." Junseok set down his fork and looked at her, really looked, past the arrangement and the contract and the walls they'd both built. When he spoke again, his voice had lost its edge. "My mother used to cook before she died. Nothing fancy, just simple food. I haven't tasted anything like this in 15 years. What happened to her? This life," he gestured vaguely at the mansion around them. "The enemies, the violence, she tried to leave, take me with her. They found us at the airport." His jaw tightened. "I was 10. I watched them drag her back. She died 3 months later. Heart attack, they said, but I knew better." Amina reached across the table. Her brown fingers brushed his scarred knuckles. "I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me everything I needed to know about this family, about power, about the cost of weakness." But his hand turned over, palm up, accepting her touch. "I swore I'd never let anyone get close enough to be used against me." "Then why did you choose me?" Junseok smiled, sad and sharp. "Because you're the first person in 20 years who didn't look at me and see a monster. You saw an inconvenience bleeding on your cart." Amina laughed despite herself. "You were an inconvenience." "I still am." They ate in silence after that, but it was different now. Less like strangers playing roles and more like two people recognizing the loneliness in each other. When Junseok finished, he stood and did something that shocked them both. He picked up his plate and carried it to the sink. The restaurant was the kind of place where silence cost more than conversation. Myeongdong's most exclusive rooftop, reserved for Korea's elite, where deals worth billions happened over raw fish and aged steak. Amina wore a black dress Junseok's stylist had selected, elegant, expensive, nothing like her. Diamond earrings that felt like weights. Heels that turned her ankles into weapons. "Smile," Junseok murmured as cameras flashed from the street below. "We're madly in love, remember?" She forced her lips upward. His hand rested on her lower back, possessive and warm through the thin fabric. To the world they looked perfect. Power couple, East meets West, Beauty and the Beast tamed. Inside, Amina's skin crawled with the weight of eyes watching, judging, calculating. Dinner passed in a performance. Junseok played the attentive fiancée, pouring her wine, laughing at her nervous jokes, touching her hand across the table. She played along, trying to ignore how natural it felt. How his smile, rare and genuine, made her forget this was all theatre. They were leaving when it happened. A man stepped from the shadows of the parking garage. Mid-40s, expensive suit, smile like broken glass. 2 bodyguards flanked him. Junseok's hand tightened on Amina's waist. "Kang Junseok," the man said in Korean, then switched to English for Amina's benefit. "How rude not to introduce me to your beautiful bride." "Deputy O," Junseok's voice went cold as a morgue. "We're leaving." "So soon, I just wanted to congratulate you, an American street vendor. How progressive." Deputy O's eyes slid over Amina like oil. "Tell me, Miss Carter, does he treat you well? Or does he keep you locked up like all his pretty things?" "Move," Junseok growled. Deputy O laughed. "I remember when you used to respect your elders, before you got soft, before you started playing house with." Junseok moved faster than thought. One moment he was beside Amina. The next, his hand was around Deputy O's throat, slamming him against a concrete pillar. The bodyguards reached for their guns. "Say another word about her," Jun Seok hissed, "and I'll end you where you stand." Jun Seok, Amina grabbed his arm. His muscles were coiled steel, trembling with rage. Deputy O smiled through the chokehold, face reddening. "There he is, the monster. Show her who you really are." Time fractured. Jun Seok's fist drove into Deputy O's ribs once, twice, 3 times. Bone cracked. Blood spattered across expensive concrete. The bodyguards moved. Jun Seok's men materialized from nowhere, guns drawn, a standoff painted in neon and shadow. "Enough," Amina screamed. Jun Seok released Deputy O, who collapsed, gasping. When Jun Seok turned to her, his eyes were black holes, empty of everything except violence. Blood stained his knuckles. His chest heaved. For the first time she saw what everyone else saw. "A killer." "Get in the car," he said quietly. The drive back was silent. Amina's hands shook. She'd seen bar fights, street brawls, desperate men doing desperate things, but this was different. This was control, precision, a man who knew exactly how much force would break bone without killing. At the estate she ran, through the foyer, up the stairs to the room they'd given her. She locked the door and leaned against it, heart hammering. A soft knock. "Amina. Go away. Please." She opened the door. Jun Seok stood there, knuckles bandaged, suit jacket gone, looking more human than monster, more a lost boy than crime lord. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry you saw who you are," she laughed bitterly. "I knew what you were, I just didn't want to believe it." "Then leave, break the contract, I'll still pay for your brother, just go before." "Before what?" "Before I fall for you." The words escaped before she could stop them. Jun Seok froze. "Amina." "Too late," she said, tears burning her eyes. "I'm already falling, and I hate myself for it." He reached for her. She let him pull her close, breathing in blood and cologne and regret. "I'm not a good man," he murmured against her hair. "I know. You should run." "I know." But she stayed. Amina couldn't sleep. 3 days after the restaurant, she still saw blood on Jun Seok's knuckles every time she closed her eyes. Still felt the way he'd trembled against her, caught between violence and vulnerability. She wandered the estate at 2 a.m., restless in silk pajamas that cost more than her old rent. The mansion felt different at night, less fortress, more mausoleum. Her bare feet made no sound on cold marble as she drifted past closed doors and silent corridors. Voices stopped her. Low, urgent, speaking Korean from behind the partially open door of Jun Seok's study. She should have kept walking, should have minded her business, but something in the tone, conspiratorial, venomous, made her freeze. She recognized Deputy O's voice first, the man from the restaurant, ribs probably still aching. Then another voice, accented, Chinese maybe, speaking Korean with the smooth confidence of someone used to buying loyalty. Amina crept closer, heart pounding. Through the crack in the door she saw them, Deputy O and 2 men in dark suits, tattoos visible on their necks, triad markings. She'd seen enough crime dramas to recognize the ink. "The charity gala," Deputy O said. 3 weeks, every family will be there. Security will be tight but not tight enough." "And Kang Jun Seok," the Chinese man asked. "Will be distracted by his new pet. The American," Deputy O's laugh was acid. "He's gone soft, sleeping in her bed like a lovesick fool, it's pathetic." Amina's breath caught. They didn't sleep in the same bed. Jun Seok had been nothing but respectful, keeping his distance despite the heat that crackled between them. "Once he's eliminated, the syndicate fractures. Your people move in, we split the territory 50-50. The old woman won't have the strength to hold it together. And the girls. Collateral damage, kill her with him, send a message." Ice flooded Amina's veins. Her hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. "The shipment arrives next week," the triad man continued. "Weapons, enough to start a war, your men are prepared." "They're loyal to me, not to that boy playing king." Deputy O's voice dripped contempt. "Jun Seok thinks he can dismantle his grandfather's empire, go legitimate, play hero. He's a fool, and fools die young." Footsteps moving toward the door. Amina ran, barefoot, silent, heart exploding in her chest. She made it to her room, locked the door, pressed her back against it and slid down to the floor. Her phone sat on the nightstand. She could call someone, the police, the American embassy, run. But Deputy O's words echoed. They're loyal to me. How many of the guards, the staff, the men who bowed to Jun Seok were really serving his betrayer? And Jun Seok, the man who'd beaten Deputy O bloody for insulting her, the man who'd held her while she cried and promised he'd never let anyone hurt her, the monster who cooked her breakfast and asked about her brother and looked at her like she was the only real thing in his artificial world. Could she trust him, or would telling him sign both their death warrants? Dawn broke over Seoul. Amina sat by her window, watching light paint the sky in shades of blood and gold. Jun Seok found her at breakfast. One look at her face and he knew. What happened? Amina set down her coffee. Her hands were steady now, decided. We need to talk, somewhere private, somewhere safe. His eyes darkened. Tell me. Deputy O is going to kill you. At the charity gala, he's working with the triads. The words tumbled out. I heard everything, the weapons, the betrayal, they're going to kill me too. Jun Seok went perfectly still. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call in rapid Korean. When he hung up, he took her hand. You could have run, taken the money, disappeared. I know. Why didn't you? Amina met his eyes. Because I'd rather die with you than live wondering if I could have saved you. His thumb traced her knuckles. You're insane. I learned from the best. For the first time in days, Jun Seok smiled, sharp and dangerous and completely hers. Then let's give them a war they'll never forget. The gown was liquid gold, draped across Amina's body like armor disguised as art. Off-shoulder, a slit climbing dangerously high on her thigh, fabric that caught light and threw it back like a challenge. Her natural hair was swept into an elegant updo, gold pins that doubled as weapons glinting against her dark curls, makeup sharp enough to cut, heels that could break bones. And strapped to her inner thigh, hidden beneath silk, a 6-inch blade Jun Seok had given her 3 days ago. You look like a queen, he'd said, teaching her where to strike for maximum damage. Now learn to fight like one. The charity gala took place at the Schiller Hotel. Seoul's elite gathered under crystal chandeliers to pretend their money was clean. Amina descended the grand staircase on Jun Seok's arm, feeling every eye in the ballroom turn. Whispers rippled through the crowd like poison through veins. The American, the street vendor, his weakness. Let them look, let them underestimate. Jun Seok wore a black tuxedo tailored like a second skin. His tattoos hidden, his face a mask of controlled power, but his hand on her waist trembled slightly, the only tell that he knew tonight might be their last. Deputy O is by the bar, he murmured. 15 of my loyalists are scattered throughout. The triads will move during the auction. And grandmother. In position, she may hate you, but she hates traitors more. The evening crawled forward. Champagne flowed. Speeches droned. Amina smiled until her face ached, playing the role of devoted fiancée while her eyes tracked every shadow, every movement, every man whose hand drifted too close to his jacket. The auction began. A Joseon dynasty vase, a modern sculpture, a rare painting. Paddles raised, numbers climbed. Amina's pulse hammered against her ribs. Then she saw him. A server, young, nervous, moving through the crowd with a tray of champagne flutes. But his eyes were wrong, too focused, too intent. They never left Jun Seok's back. His hand moved to his jacket. Amina didn't think. She grabbed a champagne flute and walked straight toward him, stumbling slightly in her heels. The glass slipped, spilling across his white jacket. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. She dabbed at his chest with a napkin, her body blocking Jun Seok from view. Her other hand slid to her thigh. The server's eyes met hers, recognition, rage. His hand emerged from his jacket, gun small and deadly. Amina moved faster. The blade sang free from her thigh. She drove it up under his ribs, angled just like Jun Seok taught her, severing something vital. The server's eyes went wide. The gun clattered to the marble floor. Smile, she whispered, holding him upright like they were dancing. Die quiet. He slumped. She lowered him gently to the floor as chaos erupted. Gunfire shattered the chandeliers. Screams tore through the ballroom. Jun Seok's men drew weapons. Deputy O's traitors revealed themselves. The triads pushed forward, a coordinated strike meant to decapitate the Kang family in one bloody night. But Jun Seok was ready. His loyalists moved like a surgical strike, precise, lethal, overwhelming. Grandmother Malsoon emerged from the private rooms with her own guards, trapping Deputy O's men in a crossfire. The triads found themselves surrounded, their careful plan collapsing. Through the smoke and violence, Amina saw Deputy O running for the exit. Jun Seok, she pointed. He was already moving, coat discarded, gun in hand, every inch the monster she'd first met. Amina kicked off her heels and followed, blade still dripping, gold dress billowing like a war banner. They cornered Deputy O in the service hallway. He turned, his own weapon drawn, face twisted with hatred. "You should have taken the money, girl," he spat. "Should have run when you had the chance." Amina stepped forward, placing herself between Jun Seok and the gun. "I don't run," she said, "I fight." Deputy O's finger tightened on the trigger. The shot never came. Grandmother Malsoon stood behind him, her own small pistol pressed to the base of his skull. "For my grandson," she whispered and pulled the trigger. The call came at 4 a.m., 3 days after the Gala massacre. Amina's phone screamed in the darkness. She grabbed it with shaking hands, saw the Atlanta area code, and knew before she answered that her world was about to detonate. "Amina Carter," a man's voice, American accent, cold, "we have your brother." Ice replaced her blood. "Jamal is alive for now. The bone marrow transplant he was scheduled for tomorrow. Cancelled. The hospital, we own the staff, the doctors, the security guards." A pause, "We own him." Jun Seok was already awake, reading the fear on her face. He moved closer, pressing his ear to the phone. "What do you want?" Amina's voice cracked. Kang Jun Seok. "He dismantled Deputy O's operation, killed half the Triad Seoul network and cost us 200 million in lost territory." The voice turned venomous. "Now he pays the Empire for the boy. He signs over every asset, every business, every connection to our designated representative. Then he disappears, retires, becomes a ghost. And if he refuses? We start with fingers, then toes, then we get creative. Your brother's a fighter, Miss Carter. Let's see how long he lasts." The line went dead. Amina's phone slipped from her grip. Jun Seok caught it, then caught her as her knees buckled. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." "Breathe," his arms locked around her. "We'll get him back. They have him, they have Jamal. He's sick, he's dying, and they have him." "Amina, look at me." Jun Seok gripped her shoulders. "I will get your brother back, I swear it." "You heard them, they want everything. Your empire, your family's legacy. Everything your mother died protecting." "I don't care." She stared at him. "What?" "I don't care about the empire." His voice was raw, stripped of all pretense. "I never wanted this, the blood, the violence, the throne built on corpses. I only kept it because I didn't know how to let go." His hands framed her face. "But you, your brother, that I care about, that I'll burn everything for." "Jun Seok, you can't. Watch me." He pulled out his phone and made a call, rapid Korean. When he hung up, his jaw was set with the kind of finality that ended worlds. "I'm calling a meeting, every family head, every ally, I'm signing it all away. They'll kill you anyway, the moment you're no longer useful." "Probably," he smiled, bitter and sharp, "but your brother will be free and you'll be safe, that's all that matters." Amina grabbed his face, forcing him to see her, really see her. "You're not doing this alone. This isn't your fight." "The hell it isn't, he's my brother. You're my—" She stopped, the word catching in her throat. "You're what?" Jun Seok asked softly. "Everything," she whispered. "You're everything, and I'm not losing either of you." Grandmother Malsoon found them an hour later in Jun Seok's office, surrounded by documents, phones, and desperate plans. "You're actually doing it," she said, "signing away 4 generations of power for a boy you've never met." "Yes. You're a fool." "I learned from you," Jun Seok said quietly. "You told me once that family is the only thing worth dying for. Amina is my family now. Her brother is my family." Malsoon's expression softened just slightly. "Your mother would be proud, horrified but proud." She set a folder on the desk. "These are the offshore accounts your grandfather kept hidden. 200 million in liquid assets, untraceable, not part of the empire's official holdings." Jun Seok looked up. "Grandmother. Use it, buy an army, buy information, buy your way to that boy." Her eyes were steel. "But don't you dare give up this family's legacy without a fight. Your mother didn't die so you could surrender to cowards. Amina stood. What are you saying? Malsoon's smile was sharp as a blade. I'm saying we don't negotiate with kidnappers, we destroy them. The intelligence came through at dawn. Jamal was being held in a warehouse in Itiwan, Amina's territory, the streets she'd worked for 3 years. The triads thought they were clever, hiding him in Seoul's international district, where chaos was currency and nobody asked questions. They didn't know they'd just made their fatal mistake. Amina stood in the war room, 12 of Junseok's best operatives watching her like she'd lost her mind. Maps of Itiwan spread across the table, official city maps useless for what they needed. This won't work, she said, pushing the maps aside. You're thinking like suits, cars, main roads, coordinated assault. That's how we operate, one of the men said in halting English. And that's why you'll fail. Amina pulled out her phone and sketched on a napkin. Itiwan isn't about what's on the maps, it's about what's between them. Service alleys, kitchen exits, rooftop access. I've run these streets for years dodging rent collectors and health inspectors. Junseok leaned forward. Show us. She drew quickly, her hand sure. The warehouse is here. Front entrance has guards, so do the side doors. But there's a dumpling shop 3 buildings down. The owner, Mrs. Kim, she lets me use her back alley to store supplies. That alley connects to a drainage tunnel that runs beneath the entire block. A sewer, one operative wrinkled his nose. A lifeline, Amina's eyes were fierce. The tunnel exits in the warehouse's loading area. No cameras, no guards, they don't even know it exists. Junseok studied her sketch. We'd need someone who knows the exact route. One wrong turn and we're lost underground. You need me, Amina said. Absolutely not. It's my brother, my streets, my rules. She turned to Junseok. You taught me to fight, now let me lead. The silence stretched, then grandmother Malsoon's voice cut through from the doorway. She's right, send your men in suits and they'll die in minutes, but a woman who knows every shadow. She nodded at Amina. That's how wars are won. 2 hours later, Amina led them through Itiwan's arteries. She changed into dark jeans, boots, her old vendor jacket, clothes that let her disappear into the neighborhood. Behind her, Junseok's men looked absurdly out of place trying to blend in. Stay close, she whispered, ducking into an alley barely wide enough for 2 people. Step where I step. She moved like water through the streets, past the hole-in-the-wall Pakistani restaurant where she traded skewers for curry, through the gap between buildings where homeless Kim slept. She nodded to him, pressed money into his hand, kept moving, down the metal stairs behind Mrs. Kim's dumpling shop. Mrs. Kim met them at the back door, eyes widening at the armed men. Amina, what? They have my brother, Auntie, I need the tunnel. Mrs. Kim's face hardened. She unlocked the basement. Bring him home. The tunnel was exactly as Amina remembered, narrow, damp, lit only by their flashlights. She led them through darkness, counting steps, reading graffiti markers only street vendors knew. 20 meters, she whispered, then we climb. They emerged in the warehouse loading dock behind stacked pallets. Amina heard voices, Korean, Chinese, arguing, then a younger voice, pained and defiant. Jamal. Junseok's hand touched her shoulder. His men fanned out, professional and silent. He'd given command to Amina for the approach, but now his training took over. Hand signals, positions, a coordinated strike. Wait, Amina breathed. She peered through the pallets, 8 guards, Jamal tied to a chair, face bruised but alive. Fury burned through her veins. She caught Junseok's eye and mouthed, on 3. He nodded. 1, 2, 3. They moved as one, streets and suits finally unified. Amina dove for Jamal while Junseok's men engaged the guards. Bullets cracked. Men fell. She reached her brother, cutting his bonds with the same blade she'd used at the gala. Amina, Jamal's voice was weak. What the hell? Later, can you walk? Think so. Then run. They fled back through the tunnel, Junseok's men covering their retreat. Behind them, sirens wailed. Ahead, freedom beckoned through darkness. When they emerged in Mrs. Kim's basement, Amina collapsed, holding her brother, finally letting herself break. Junseok knelt beside them both. Let's go home. The Kang estate became a fortress in the days after Jamal's rescue. Junseok's men hunted down every triad operative, every traitor who'd sided with Deputy O, every loose end that threatened the fragile peace they'd bled for. Seoul's underworld ran red, then went silent. Jamal recovered in a guest suite larger than their entire Atlanta apartment, receiving the transplant Junseok had arranged with doctors who asked no questions. Amina sat with him for hours, holding his hand, telling him nothing and everything about the man who'd saved his life. "So you're actually marrying a mafia boss," Jamal said on the third day, his voice stronger. "It's complicated. Sis, the man burned down half of Seoul to get me back. That's not complicated, that's love." Amina didn't answer, couldn't because he was right. The purge ended on a cold November morning. Junseok called a meeting of the remaining family heads in the estate's main hall. Amina stood beside him, no longer relegated to the shadows. Grandmother Malsoon sat in the patriarch's chair, eyes sharp as ever. Junseok held a leather-bound ledger, 4 generations of the Kang family's sins written in meticulous detail. Names, dates, bribes, murders, the empire's true foundation laid bare. "This ends today," he said in Korean, then English for Amina. "My grandfather built this family on blood and fear. My father maintained it, I inherited it, but I won't pass it on." Murmurs rippled through the assembled bosses, shock, confusion, anger. The legitimate businesses, the restaurants, the real estate, the tech investments, those continue under new management. Clean, legal, transparent. Junseok's voice was steel. Everything else, the protection rackets, the gambling dens, the loan sharking, the violence. He opened the ledger. Burned. "You're weak," one of the older men spat. "That American whore has made you." Junseok moved faster than lightning, his gun pressed against the man's forehead. "Choose your next words carefully," he said softly. "I'm dismantling the criminal empire, not my capacity for violence. Disrespect her again and learn the difference." "Silence." Grandmother Malsoon stood. "My grandson is right. This family has bled enough, lost enough. My daughter died for this empire. I won't watch my grandson follow." She looked at each face. "Those who wish to continue the old ways leave now. You're no longer welcome here. Those who wish to build something better stay." 3 men left, the rest remained. Junseok carried the ledger to the courtyard, where a metal drum waited. Amina followed. The assembled families watched from the windows as he dropped the book into the drum and struck a match. 4 generations, he said, flame dancing in his hand. 4 generations of blood, it ends with me. He dropped the match. The ledger caught fire, pages curling, ink bleeding, history turning to ash. Smoke rose into Seoul's grey sky like a prayer, like a ghost finally released. Amina took his hand, not the gesture of a fiancée playing a role but a partner claiming her place. "What now?" she asked. "Now we build something worth keeping." He turned to face her fully. "The contract expires in 6 months, the year we agreed on." Her heart stuttered. "I know. I want to tear it up." "What?" Junseok pulled the contract from his jacket, the document that had bound them, brought them together. He held it over the burning ledger. "I don't want a business arrangement anymore, Amina. I don't want a fake engagement or a strategic alliance." His eyes held hers. "I want you, real, permanent. Choose me not because of debt or duty, but because you want to." Tears burned her vision. "You're asking me to marry a reformed crime lord who still has enough enemies to fill a stadium?" "Yes." "Who just burned his entire legacy to the ground?" "Yes." "Who's going to spend the rest of his life building restaurants and probably arguing with health inspectors?" His smile was real, warm, completely hers. "Yes." Amina took the contract from his hand and dropped it into the flames herself. "Then ask me properly." Junseok knelt on the cold stone, no throne beneath him, no empire behind him, just a man who'd given up everything for love. "Amina Carter, will you marry me, for real this time?" "Yes," she whispered, "yes."